Welcome back to the channel. Today, we'll be diving deep into the shocking events of One Piece chapter 1125. The chapter is titled How to Define Death, a direct quote from Vegapunk in the previous chapter. We'll also continue following the cover story about Yamato, the Mink tribe child. Volume 13 is titled Yamato arrives at the reconstructed Oden Castle, where she discovers that the elderly carpenter Minamoto has gone missing. It's likely that this takes place in Kuri, suggesting that the castle is being rebuilt on the ruins of the old one. I'm also curious about who the current daimyo of Kuri is. Could it be Kainmen? As I suspect, the chapter then shifts its focus to Egghead Island, specifically to a world government battleship. The CPO agents were requesting that the Seraphims be brought aboard once they had finished recharging. Upon boarding, Rob Lucci and Kaku noticed only two individuals present, prompting one agent to inquire about Stussie's whereabouts. With a bandaged body and a cold glare, Rob Lucci replied, "I killed her," while Kaku remained silent. Nevertheless, it remains uncertain whether Rob Lucci actually harmed Stussie, or if he went as far as to eliminate her entirely. Meanwhile, Saturn has departed from the island and returned to the warship, where all 9 vice admirals await. Sudden has confirmed that they have successfully secured the mission objectives, the power plant, York, and Punk Record. With these assets in hand, we can now proceed with the recreation of Mother Flame. Everything appeared to be under control at the moment. However, before he could complete his sentence, all 9 vice admirals present offered their apologies to Saint Saturn, confessing that despite the activation of Buster Call, the Straw Hat Pirates and Jewelry Bonnie had managed to evade capture. Consequently, they petitioned for authorization to pursue them to Elbaf. Thankfully, Saint Saturn intervened, as their pursuit might have proven fatal. Saturn declared that they should abandon the chase to Elbaf, attributing any failure to Vegapunk's broadcast. It was a colossal failure to have been unable to halt the broadcast. It was ironic that an ancient automaton had facilitated the pirates' escape. Leaning on his cane, Saturn contemplated this irony with a sigh. His thoughts then drifted back to events that had transpired in the Holy Land of Mary Geoise 200 years prior. "But Saint Saturn, we were ordered to discard it," a scientist had pleaded. To which Saturn had replied, "If we are caught, I will take responsibility. Research it, it's the future. One day, it may prove invaluable to our capabilities." The scientists expressed their gratitude profusely, thanking Saturn for his foresight. Returning to the present, Saturn scrutinized himself with a grave expression. 2 centuries had passed, and yet he had remained motionless. However, it was evident that he had moved to protect Luffy. Indeed, this was a fascinating revelation. Previously, Vegapunk had stated that the world government had ordered the robot's destruction. Nevertheless, the scientist had defied those orders, choosing instead to conceal it for clandestine research. Now, the situation was entirely reversed. It was Saint Saturn himself who had decreed that the research should proceed rather than the project be terminated. What if that's the case? Clearly, it was due to Saturn's foresight 200 years ago that Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates, along with their allies, had been rescued. They had evaded the grasp of the 5 elders. Quite intriguing, and perhaps that was the reason why in the preceding chapter we had witnessed Saturn, leaning on his cane, gazing contemplatively at the robot Emmett. Could it be that Saturn was regretting his decision from the centuries past? For while the benefits had been negligible, the repercussions were evident. Just as Saturn was pondering the robot, Vice Admiral Doberman inquired about Vegapunk's message. "Saint Saturn," Doberman began, "as a soldier of the government, I must ask if our actions are deemed a failure. Does that imply that Vegapunk's claims within his message are accurate?" Without uttering a word, Saint Saturn unleashed a lethal glare, striking Doberman and severing his head with his power, leaving the remaining vice admirals astounded. They tried to wake up the medical team who were still unconscious. Coming and looking at this scene, you can see that Saturn's gaze caused Doberman's head to snap back. Blood splattered everywhere, but it didn't explode like the unfortunate Marine soldier before. It means there's a high possibility that Doberman is still alive, but his injuries are probably severe. Basically, that's the consequence of asking the right person at the wrong time. The chapter shifts to the research area on the Polar Dome. According to that, Punk 06 York noticed that the cloud-making machine was operating very strongly on its own. The clouds were spreading uncontrollably, almost covering the entire polar garden, and York knew it was Edison who did it. Edison was still alive at that time. Oh, so she realized. However, immediately after that, Edison was shot dead by York. Damn it, we were tricked. They even took the Punk record. Along with that, a striking image appeared before our eyes. The Punk record, which contains Vegapunk's great brain, was lifted by the clouds, separated from the experimental area, and flew up high. This means that one of Saturn's 3 initial goals has failed. That is to protect the Punk record. The other 2 of the remaining 3 goals are probably about to fail as well. While we still have a very large figure named Admiral Kizaru, let's move on to the developments on the Holy Land of Mary Geoise. There are many surprising and shocking developments. Accordingly, the consequences of the Revolutionary Army intercepting all supply ships from everywhere to the Holy Land of Mary Geoise, combined with Sabo's group setting fire to the warehouse on the Holy Land earlier, have arrived very quickly. A food shortage crisis is happening everywhere, and the celestial dragons are in a state of utter panic as their food rations are continuously cut. Some celestial dragons are discussing whether what Vegapunk said is true or not. Then they complain because there is not enough food for everyone. When a celestial dragon says that he only ate one meal yesterday and skipped snacks, a cook, who is probably a slave, says, "But that's how prisoners live." Then he was immediately shot dead. The person responsible for all these problems should be executed. And looking at the face of the celestial dragon, he probably has some relationship with Charlotte. They look quite similar and are really very provoking. Meanwhile, inside the Bongia platform, the leader of the Holy Knights, Figurine Gatling, in a very elegant suit, is heading to the power room, the workplace of the 5 elders. Seeing Figurine Gatling walking leisurely towards the chairs, the 4 elders immediately spoke up and asked why Gatling came here, and he said that he was ordered to come here. By who? Lord Curie asked, and Saint Jupiter also continued. His speech sounds strange. Gatling, Saint Max, with a dangerous threatening look, warned, "Be careful," while Venus Zero just snorted. And the 4 elders were so surprised, because Figurine Gatling's way of speaking was really very disjointed. The words were incoherent. It was very clear that Figurine Gatling also did not want to make clear who had ordered him. He did not dare to say the name of someone everyone knew who it was. And then Gatling proudly sat down on the only chair, crossed his legs, folded his arms with authority, and boldly declared, "From now on, Vegapunk York will be under my direct supervision, and I will assume the role of the god of war, of science, and defense." That statement made Saint Max realize something. Don't tell me. And right now, Figurine Gatling is introduced as the 5 elders. Saint Figurine Gatling, the god of war, of science, and defense, no longer the leader of the Holy Knights. Figurine Gatling officially replaces Saint Saturn and sits in the seat of the 5 elders. And there are many things related to this issue that need to be dissected and analyzed, and I will talk about everything in the upcoming chapter analysis video. For now, Gatling continues to say to his 4 colleagues, things will become chaotic from now on. The world will fall into a state of chaos that has never existed before. Let's work together to make this world a better place, my old colleagues. From his appearance to his style, Saint Figurine Gatling is probably the coolest among the 5 elders. Compared to his predecessor, Satan, it's clear that Gatling is more aggressive and bloodthirsty. He's very similar to a Kainu of the Navy. This is also a sign of the crazy events about to happen. And when the new one has ascended, the old one should also be dealt with. The chapter returns to Egghead. Accordingly, on the Navy battleship, a few minutes ago Saturn was still attacking Doberman. But now Saturn has knelt on the ground, clutching his neck in agony. Meanwhile, black flames were constantly erupting and raging around his body. Where is the medical team? Vice Admiral Jian asked. Dahl and Ubarn also showed their horror. Something had happened to one of the most powerful authorities in the world. And Vice Admiral Hao questioned, is this some kind of disease? Then Saturn's body aged rapidly with a wrinkled face like a mummy, and black flames continued to burn his body. The Navy Vice Admirals who witnessed this scene were shocked and horrified. They couldn't believe what they were seeing and could only stand there and watch. Then Saturn heard Imu's voice in his head, along with the image of Imu's eyes. Imu, Imu, Saturn screamed, begging for mercy. But Imu only asked back with an angry face, Saturn, why did you let Joy Boy escape? Please forgive me. His power is so deep and immeasurable that it surpasses my understanding. Then the black flame grew bigger and bigger, continuously burning Saturn's body. Then there was a big explosion with black fire and lightning bolts shooting out, throwing the Navy Vice Admirals away. And then, after the fire went out, only the skeleton and skull of Saturn remained on the ship's deck. The 5 Elder Saint Saturn was officially killed by Imu, and when Saturn appeared on Egghead earlier, I thought of Saturn's death scenario. But the way Saturn was actually killed shocked me a bit. For Saint Saturn, humans are no different from insects. And for Imu, Saturn was no different from an insect. The mistake was killing, no need to worry. In Imu's words to Saturn, why did you let Joy Boy escape? May not refer to Luffy Nika in the present, but to the existence of Emeth. Why didn't you eliminate Emeth 200 years ago, and let Joy Boy's conquerors Haki appear like this? Clearly, this is a very serious mistake. A very serious mistake of Saturn, very difficult to forgive. The chapter shifts to Punk Record, which is currently flying somewhere. The distance from Egghead Island is unknown. Shaka, Atlas, Edison, and Pythagoras have been revived. They are alive and they are talking about York and Punk Record. They said that they could not get the laboratory because York had obstructed them. This brain can be accessed from anywhere through brain waves. So York can also access the information of this brain as long as there is a signal. Pythagoras spoke up, then Edison, I know, but this is better than letting it fall into her hands. We'll take care of this until humanity finds a way to use this brain in the most optimal way. It might take up to 500 years. Sokka spoke up. has the cloud above the island been switched to floating mode yet? Of course, Vegapunk is publicly known to be dead all over the world, so we can travel around the world as we please, Edison replied. So Pythagoras said that we don't have money and materials, so we can't make any inventions anymore. And Edison's head jumped numbers extremely fast. This is the time when we rely on our friends. Then, what appeared before our eyes was the image of the 4 Vegapunks combined in an interesting way. I'll temporarily call this Punk 07 Edison Atlas Pythagoras Sokka, officially born when this new Vegapunk has a body made of replacement parts. It's incomplete. It's a combination of Edison's head, Sokka's body and legs, Atlas's left arm, and Pythagoras' right arm. Even more interesting is that all 4 people talk in the same body. That is, one body but with 4 minds. Alright, what do we look like? Edison asked, and Sokka was proud of his body. Do you admire my normal body proportions? Then this Punk 07 walked down the hallway, saw the replacement parts of Punk 06, and said, "Let's get rid of York's parts." Atlas made the suggestion, and Edison thought it was reasonable. "Yeah, it's an eyesore," Edison said. Then Edison contacted his friends as he had said, and that was the old man Haradat, Nami's master. "Hello, is this Weather Island? This is Vegapunk. What is this? What do you want? Isn't he dead?" Haradat exclaimed in surprise. Then the chapter shifts to the Revolutionary Army in Kamabaka Kingdom. Accordingly, Koala is summarizing Vegapunk's speech for everyone. From now on, whoever gets the One Piece and becomes the Pirate King can once again use that power. And the commander of the Eastern Revolutionary Army, Palo Pepti, raised a question. So our world will sink into the ocean. Then Sabo said, "The fact that these celestial dragons choose to live on the top of Red Line, the highest place in the world, makes sense." Ivankov also spoke up, and that's why the world government ordered slaves to build huge bridges at Tequila Woods, Vodka Woods, Rum Woods, and Bourbon Woods since 700 years ago. "Yes, it all makes sense," Karasu added. Molly looked surprised. "I can't believe it." The chapter concludes with an image of Dragon standing on the beach, mumbling to himself, "Vegapunk, there's no guarantee, but those who believe in his final words will only think about the purpose of peace. We have to finish this quickly, or a war between people fighting for a safe dream to live will soon happen." And that's all the content of the latest chapter 1125. Hope you guys liked the video, and don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell to follow the latest videos. Thank you.